John Beeline was a candidate there, which would have been very intriguing as well, but he pulled out after getting some concessions from the Wolverines, and so everything points to Dwayne Casey. Right now, Ed Stefanski was hired as an advisor to sort of run the selection process for both GM and head coach, and it appears that they are going to hire the coach before the GM, which tells you that Ed is going to be even more influential going forward in that organization than maybe was initially kind of believed when he was just hired as the advisor. So if you're hiring the coach before the GM, that means that the guy making the decisions is the one who has all the power, and Ed Stefanski has some connections to Dwayne Casey through back channels. I know that Ime Udoka is still in the mix. Kenny Smith may still be in the mix a little bit, but I really anticipate that as long as they get the money worked out, that Dwayne Casey is going to go to Detroit and may even be hired before Toronto hires his replacement, which would be kind of interesting to see.
I just got to give some advice to Kenny Smith. It's so much easier to be in the media than to be in the crosshairs of
man.
It's so much easier to sit back and second guess, Kenny. You should understand that by now.
100%.
No kidding.
And he has a cushy job that he's making millions of dollars. But it speaks to the competitive nature of these guys and how they need to be, in the mix and in the locker room and things. And there is no duplicating that. But shoot. Man, it's such a harder lifestyle. There's so much more scrutiny. There's so much more drama that you have to deal with.
Ty Lue has LeBron, and he has chest pains and anxiety.
That's right. I am surprised when the guys leave those really plum, cushy TV jobs. Look at Gruden. Mm-hmm. I mean, now Gruden got a 10-year deal, ridiculous offer from the Raiders and all this stuff. But man, there's so much, the lifestyle, everything about it is just so different, but that just speaks to these guys' competitiveness and what they miss. They miss the roar of the crowd. They miss being in the huddle. They miss, all of that stuff. And after, Kenny's been on that show forever, so he's probably made, a bajillion dollars, and so he can probably afford to take this risk and see how it works out if he eventually gets a job.
Absolutely. Let's talk. Is there any Wolves intrigue at the moment?
Well, right now it's a little quiet. They're bringing in draft prospects for workouts, and of course it's a state secret, so they're not announcing and they're not letting media see all of these things that like so many other organizations do. But hey, that's fine. You want to be that way, be that way. But They're preparing really to look at what to do with that 20th pick if they keep it. I think they're going to look hard to trade it as part of a package to bring in some established veteran talent. But if there is no deal to be made there, they'll sit tight and they got to draft somebody. So you're hearing lots of names coming in, the Grayson Allens of the world, and the DiVincenzo from Villanova is another one who's kind of a fast rising guy, and some people think that might be a fit for Tibbs in terms of just what he brings to the table IQ wise and kind of mentality wise, and so they're bringing in a bunch of guys to look at, and but it's a little quiet right now. I think that they've geared up for the draft process. One little bit of news is that David Crew, who's a longtime athletic trainer with the Wolves, is moving on to Memphis to be the head athletic trainer. So he got a promotion. Really great opportunity for him. One of the really good guys in that organization, who was very respected by the players, and so they'll have to find someone else to fill his shoes. But really a good opportunity for David. I'm happy for him. He's a really good dude. But yeah, other than that, there's just kind of a holding pattern right now. Everyone's sort of taking stock, looking at things, and I still haven't heard of Tibbs doing any exit interviews yet. He was going to say he was going to take a couple of weeks and then start meeting with players, but it would be, I think that would be important for him pretty soon to start really reaching out to players and talking to them and laying down some groundwork and having some communication in the midst of all of these kind of rumors and things that were swirling just a week or two ago, just to kind of calm the waters. And he could be doing that right now. I'm not sure, but I think that's kind of one of the next steps that he has to do internally, just to kind of address some of these things with these guys, settle things down a little bit, so they can kind of move into their summers and prepare like they need to prepare.
A lot more I want to get to. Do want to thank Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. Tony works out of Champlin, but he's easy to deal with no matter where you live. I use his app all the time. My wife uses his app all the time. Very responsive staff. You can do things over the phone. And Tony's just been a great guy. He sponsors multiple shows on the program. Michael Roos and I actually get our insurance through Tony and State Farm.
Hey, Minnesota sports fans. This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Hoaglund. I need you all to ask yourselves this question. If you're in an at-fault car accident and you are sued for $700,000, how much of that $700,000 will my current insurance company pay? If you are unsure or can't answer all $700,000, you need to give us a call. State Farm has been number one in car insurance since World War II and number one in homeowners insurance since 1964. For a no-obligation review of your current policies, call us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at www.champlininsurance.com.
So the Lynx go to Washington, D.C., and the players ask to go a day early so they can spend a day giving away, washing the feet of, and giving shoes and socks to underprivileged elementary school kids. Kevin Durant decides he's going to pay for the first year of college for some underprivileged people. We see LeBron doing good work all the time. We see Stephen Curry doing good work all the time. We see NBA coaches and WNBA coaches speaking on social issues all the time. And I wrote about it a couple weeks ago. I was out at a Vikings practice, and Zimmer was asked about everything that's going on in the world and anthem protests, and he just kind of does the old, troops, rights, freedoms, flag, thing. It's amazing how much more socially aware basketball players are than seemingly the rest of America.
Yeah, it's a totally different world now. I do think I think the players in the NFL, a lot of them are engaged. I mean, you've seen that with the Eagles and the way that they went through.
Yeah, the Eagles are like an NBA team, basically.
Yeah, right. But there certainly is a different dynamic in terms of the leadership structure in the NFL organizations, where they want order. They want,
obedience.
Yes, see it, be seen and not heard, kind of thing. And it is a more militaristic approach in terms of the way that the organizations are run and how they conduct themselves and chain of command and all of those things. We've kind of talked about on this show before. A lot of it has to do with there's a lot more leverage for NFL leaders to exert on players because contracts aren't guaranteed and players careers are, I think, even shorter than NBA players a lot of the time. And so you do see different approaches. I am going to be interested to see what happens when the NFL season begins, especially in the preseason, with this new anthem policy that they have and how it clearly has blown up in their face with the way that Trump has sort of used this as a rallying cry to his base. And I think, I was asked on Twitter about this today, just the difference in the NBA and the NFL is, I feel like the NFL, we're sitting on a powder keg right now. Like there's going to be a player revolt at some point. I think they're tired of being controlled and they're tired of being marginalized the way that they have been and told what to do and what to say and what to think. And so in the NBA, it's not that way. I mean, you did not see any issues with the anthem in the NBA because the players believe that the organizations that they work for and the overarching league, the commissioner and everyone else is invested in them and interested in what they have to say and will allow them the freedom to say things in other forums, in other ways. And so they don't feel like there's no other outlet. I mean, the NFL players felt like they literally had no other outlet to express themselves than to do this. And some of the guys, Eric Reed, Colin Kaepernick, are now can't get jobs because
which is ridiculous. They're good players.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's absurd. And so when you see the Lynx kind of going to Washington D.C. and not getting an invite and thumbing their nose right at the president and doing these things, that's the other part of this that has really become clear in the last couple of days is you look at who Trump goes after, and he goes after the NFL owners and he goes after the NFL players because he senses weakness there in terms of, kowtowing to what he wants, kowtowing to sponsors, all of those things. You've seen LeBron and Steve Kerr and Cheryl Reeve and Steph Curry and all of these basketball players and coaches just lobbing grenades at him, and you haven't heard one peep from him right back.
He's a classic bully.
Is he stepping into the ring with Steve Kerr or LeBron James? No, he's not. But he's going to step into the ring with the NFL because he knows he has them under his thumb because of money and nothing else.
Yep.
And so the players
and NFL ratings are going down and NBA ratings are going up.
Yeah, and the NFL is still incredible, way more popular and all of these things. But the players, I can just sense it, are starting to see that more. And the more that the owners kind of side with Trump publicly, the bigger trouble they're going to run into the long term. And so I would not be surprised at all if there are some major orchestrated shows or displays of contempt or frustration or protest or whatever coming up in this next season, because it just feels like we are reaching that boiling point, and there's zero trust that the NFL players have with their leadership. The NBA players have infinite trust with their leadership, and so it's going to be interesting to watch how this all plays out.
The other dog whistle of the week was Ted Cruz talking about Lamborghinis and all that. And here's where this is just so obviously racial in nature. Nobody complains. No, you won't hear any politicians or anybody else complaining about somebody going to Wall Street and making $1 billion, just shuffling money from this account to that account and driving a Lamborghini. It's always the athlete who gets accused of being. And first of all, most athletes don't drive Lamborghinis. Yes, stars have the ability, especially NBA stars, have the ability to drive whatever they want. They might drive Lamborghinis, but those are also the people doing a lot of good work in our society. It's just so obviously racially motivated.
Yeah, it plays into. So all of his base thinks. They look at NFL and NBA players and they say, oh, these black guys who spend their money irresponsibly and live in this bubble and can say whatever they want just because they play a game because they're big and strong and fast. Like that's all that is. And so, again, it totally marginalizes them as people, and it absolutely 100% rallies their base who gets out and votes. And there's no other reason for him to say those things. And I mean, you look at Cruz, and he's one of the most duplicitous, like underhanded guys. I mean, the guy who stood up to Trump during the elections, and now what is he? Now he just totally is like Trump's errand boy. So like that's the kind of stuff that comes out and that you look at, and it's just jaw dropping how kind of frontal and how comfortable Trump, Cruz, all these guys are about saying these things publicly. Like, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, and you've seen it kind of come in. You see the South Dakota congressman who posted on Facebook that any business owner should be able to not serve people of color if they don't want to. Like, what? But that's where it's going. Like that's where we're headed, unless there is a strong and swift rebuke to all of this stuff. But that's what's been enabled here with the current regime that's in. And it's frightening the way that it's gone.
You probably feel the same way I do. As sports people, we don't want to spend our time talking about politics.
No.
We don't want to have anything. We don't really want to talk about anything that has political implications. No. It's just not what we do.
That's right.
But you can't avoid some of this stuff. You can't. There's we've gone from right and left, Democrat, Republican, Independent. We've gone from that to just like evil and racist or not evil and racist.
That's right.
That's
exactly right. And Trump has thrust this into the